everyone. What a dreary day it is today, but our spirits are high because we know any day now victory in Europe will be ours, and we're sitting round the wireless just waiting for the Prime Minister to announce it. So when he does, are we going to celebrate? We're going to have street parties everywhere, parties for children in village halls, and really celebrate our victory in Europe. Even though our war may not be over everywhere, at least we know that many of our sons and our husbands and our loved ones will be returning home from Europe. And we're not going to worry about our weekly rations and using them wisely. We're going to push the boat out for our VE Day celebrations. And one of the items that we all love at parties is a cheesy pastry treat. So today I'm making some cheese crisps. Now I'm going to start using 8 ounces of our national wheatmeal flour. Now of course this is a little heavier and a little bit more dense than the usual plain flour that we had at the start and before the war, but with 85% extraction rate. Not only does this save lives with the amount of shipments that we need to bring wheat from our allies, but also it is full of added vitamins and nourishment to keep the family fit and healthy. It does need a jolly good sifting, so do make sure you get as much air into it. So I'm popping it through my lovely sifter. 8 ounces, and we're going to add just a little raising agent to make this lighter, a nice light cheesy pastry. Now you will be left with those little bits at the bottom, the bran. Don't forget to add those as well, full of goodness and fibre in there. So once the flour is fully sifted, add those extra bran bits. Now to that we're going to add some fat. Now I'm using my dripping that I've clarified from the weekend's meat, but you could use margarine, lard, any fat that you have at your disposal that will work well with pastry. And I'm going to rub this into the flour, but adding a little bit of raising agent before we do that, so that that can be rubbed into. 2 teaspoons of baking powder to your 8 ounces of flour. Now of course 2 ounces of fat is a very low amount for a really rich, short, cheesy pastry. But that's because of course we have a wonderful fat substitute in our Dig for Victory gardens, which help our limited resources of cooking fats go so much further. And of course that is good old potato peat. Now not only can you use plain boiled mashed potato in potato pastry, you can also use it raw and grated in such items as steamed puddings to take the place of some of the suet that you would otherwise use. And I'm going to use it raw and grated in this cheesy crisps recipe. So that's beautifully and lightly rubbed in. And I'm now going to add the grated raw potato, which I've just peeled. Now normally we recommend that you don't peel your potato, that you always use it with the skin on, as that's where the vitamins are. But I've peeled mine to boil up to give to the hens who are laying me such wonderful eggs. Now I'm also going to add some cheese, and it's our cheese ration which really can go a long way in making lots of delicious treats for our VE Day party. And I'm popping in, to begin with, 3 ounces of grated cheese. Now we know that this is 1 week's ration of cheese for one person who is not a land worker or someone that works in the country and cannot get home for lunch, who of course gets the extra cheese ration. But this does make an awful large amount, and so perhaps you can pool it amongst your neighbours and have an ounce here and an ounce there to make these special treats. Flavouring wise, I'm going to add a pinch of mustard and also some salt and pepper, a little bit more mustard. Of course, when you're using your cheese in dishes, never forget to use mustard, because of course that brings out the flavour of cheese. And by popping mustard either in your cheese sauces or cheese biscuits, as like this, it means that with a small amount of cheese you get a recipe which really has a punchy cheese flavour just by using a little bit of our mustard. So there we have our flour rubbed in with fat, added grated raw potato, grated cheese, salt, pepper and some mustard for flavouring. I'm now going to mix that up with some cold water. Now this needs to be mixed to not a sticky consistency, but an easy to roll pastry. I'm going to go to a knife to mix this in, and then I'm going to roll this out onto a surface as thin as I can. A little bit more water. Do make sure you use it cold, of course. The colder we keep pastry, the better. Now I'm going to mix this together and pop it in a cool place for about half an hour to rest before making the cheese crisps. Now that looks about enough. Try not to knead your pastry as much as possible. If you're using boiled mashed potato in a potato pastry, it is a good way to incorporate all the mash into the pastry. But here with the grated raw, we can just mould the pastry together. And there it is, ready to pop into the pantry to rest for 30 minutes. Now, having rested the pastry, it's ready to roll out on your surface to prepare for cooking. Now, we're going to add even extra cheese here, which may make you recoil in horror, but ladies, this does make such a delicious treat. I'm sure that with your cheese pulled from neighbours, you'll think this is definitely worthwhile doing. So flour your surface and roll out your pastry to about 1/4 of an inch thick. And then we're going to pop our filling in. You want to try and get a reasonably good oblong shape to your pastry. And we're going to pop in a sprinkling of fresh parsley, full of vitamin C, ladies, very good for the family whilst our citrus fruits are in short supply. And then that extra cheese, just 2 ounces, sprinkle that in the middle as well. Now we're then going to roll this up. As you would a Swiss roll, you can add a little extra salt and pepper. Now you could do both sides halfway each to give you more of a whirl, or you can do just a Swiss roll like this, and then smarten up the edges, and then we're going to cut with a knife into slices, thin slices, and lay them on a greased baking tray, leaving room for them to expand. Now these don't take very long to cook. Keep an eye on them, we don't want them overcooked. We're going to pop them into a moderate hot to hot oven for about 15 minutes. And I'm going to just pop this first tray in, ready for you to see as they are cooked. And they smell delicious. I think they're done now. Now 2 trays of cheese crisps. Yes, the cheese is browning beautifully. I don't want to overdo these, and these will make probably at least 24 for your street party, to go a long way to feed those hungry children. Now don't forget to watch Ministry of Food flashes or food facts in your magazines. Will give you lots more hints and tips of how to make your street party a great success when that wonderful day finally comes.